Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about oxycodone and how much problems it's caused me. So to take you back in time, when I had the major stroke, I was 27. I was put in inpatient rehab. As I said, I couldn't move anything for a good 2 months. I couldn't, not even a flicker in my arm or leg. And I was in chronic pain, chronic back pain. So they started me on oxycodone, or in Australia we call it endone. They started me on a very high dose of that. The reason they chose that drug was because it's a very old drug, oxycodone, and because I had a carotid dissection, which is very, very similar to an aneurysm. I can't have non-steroidals. So NSAIDs, which includes Nurofen, Nuromol, anything non-steroidals I can't have. So they said your safest option after stroke was endone. So once I was discharged back home, the rehab sent a letter to my GP saying Alex requires this much, I think it was 50 milligrams of oxycodone daily. So he was happy to prescribe that. Within about a year, I was needing more. I wasn't in more pain. I was just needing more pills, more tablets. So developing an addiction, you'd say. The important thing to know about opioids is that when you're on them, you feel better than you should feel. You feel a lot better than you should feel. I was a very long time getting over it. I will call, even though it's prescribed medication, I still will call it an addiction. If you have an opioid addiction, the women that work at the front of house of doctors' surgeries will know, because you'll rock up an hour before closing and you'll demand an appointment to see a doctor, and if a doctor knocks you back, you'll demand an appointment to see another one. So the people that work at the front of house can usually tell an opioid addict. You can also tell them at the pharmacy. They're yelling at the pharmacist for one more pill. I didn't get to that point, but it was a very slippery slope, and the dosage that I was on was nearly life-ending towards the end, and I'll get to that. If you are an opioid addict, you will miss your kids' birthdays, but you will never miss getting to the pharmacy before it closes. So that's something you can think about that for 24 hours, okay? You will miss your kids' birthdays, but you will not miss getting to the doctor or getting to the pharmacy before 5 o'clock before it closes. I guess if you are an opioid addict, then the best part about having a stroke is that you can have all the painkillers you ever want. I can walk into any doctor in Australia anytime and walk out with boxes and boxes of oxycodone. So after a year of seeing that one GP, and I'd kind of exhausted him, he wasn't prepared to up my dose. So because at this point I'd been on it for 12 months, a very high dose of endone, I definitely developed an addiction to this point. So I went to another doctor, just a random another doctor in a small town, and he didn't even have a computer. He was so old. This doctor was so old that he still handwrites prescriptions, and he doesn't have a computer because he doesn't think doctors need computers. The first time I went and saw him, I just basically said about a stroke. He saw me limp in, and we discussed that for a little bit. And this is an old GP, and I said I get these constant migraines daily, and I'm on oxycodone for it. And he goes, "Oh, perfect." He goes, "That's my favourite drug." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Because it just fixes everyone's problems." So this GP was old, like he studied in the late 40s, and he's still working. Well, he's retired, he's retired now, but when I saw him for about 3 or 4 years. And that was when my opioid addiction was at its worst. So he was happy to double my dose, and he hand wrote prescriptions, as I said. So when you prescribe endone to somebody in Australia, the doctor's software on their computer program will tell them how much endone they've had, how frequently they've had, and where they've got it from. So it's called SafeScript. So it's a brilliant thing. I'm a big fan of SafeScript. Anyway, this doctor didn't get the safe script signals. He didn't get any warnings at all because he was handwriting prescriptions, and you're not allowed to give repeats on prescriptions of oxycodone, but he'd give me 5 or 6 repeats of 20 tablets. So I'd walk out with 10 boxes of them. And then I'll be back a week later and say, oh, I need another 5 boxes. And he'd say, okay, no problem. So all the while this was happening, my partner at the time was telling me to stop. She said that I'm an addict. She frequently hid the pills from me, which needed to happen. She told me to stop, get help, see a different doctor. She told me every single day. And every day I just excuse her and go, oh, it's from a doctor, so it must be okay, which is absolute crap. So I saw that doctor for about 3 or 4 years, and that was when my addiction was at its worst. At that point, something Jordan Peterson said really hit me. It's probably 5 or 6 words, but he stopped my opioid addiction with 6 words. Something he said just really hit me, and it just ended right then and there. So I went to a different GP, told him, he was also an older GP. I really like old GPs. Told him that I have this problem, I'm on this high dose, and I need help, and he created a tapering plan. So over the next, I think it was 12, 14 months, I tapered down to nothing at all, to the point where he gave me my last script to taper off, and I gave it back to him and said I don't need it anymore. So today is actually day 50 with no oxycodone, which is absolutely amazing, because considering I was taking, well, with opioids, you take as much as you can get. It's basically heroin. Don't kid yourself, it's heroin. You take as much as you can get. It could be 20 pills a day, it could be 10, it could be 2. I have torn the house upside down looking for one more pill. I have been that desperate to look for one more pill just to stop being dope sick. There's a really interesting study and a TED talk done. I forget the name of the scientist, but it was brilliant. It's called The Rat Park. And he gets rats addicted to all sorts of drugs, and then he gets them off the drugs and he assesses them, and he basically explains why when grandma has a hip surgery and she's on oxycodone for 2 or 3 weeks, she does not get addicted, but certain people get addicted, and he explains it thoroughly. So I won't butcher his work, but Go and look it up. I think it's called The Rat Park. It's absolutely brilliant, the study, explaining why some people get addicted to opioids or cocaine or anything in general, and some people don't. Grandma won't get addicted to endone, being on it for 2 weeks after a hip operation. And this guy explains it really well. So as I said, I won't butcher his work. Go and find it yourself, but it's a really good theory. The German pharmaceutical Bayer in the early 1900s actually produced oxycodone as almost like a multivitamin, take twice daily to feel better. And I can completely understand that. It wasn't allowed to be made, but they did try to make it. Coming off oxycodone, oh, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. So as I said, I tapered down to the point where I'd break a pill in half. I'd have half in the morning and half at night. I was really strict with the tapering, because this particular GP, if I just shoved a whole box in one night, he wouldn't give me any more for a week. He told me that clearly. He said, stick to the plan and I'll stick by you. And he told me specifically to not see any other doctors, which I didn't. Bugger off. So opioids constipate you, and it wasn't until I watched that Elvis movie that I realised he died because of heart failure as a result of opioid addiction, constipation. I realised I'd been constipated for the last 8 years. So the first 7 days with no oxycodone, I was prescribed medical cannabis, so I used that just for a couple of weeks just to get through the first couple of weeks, because I was on no medication at all. at this point. And so the first 7 days, all I took was paracetamol, and that's going to be your best friend because you're going to have bone chilling, like just bone chills. It feels like the worst flu you've ever had. The first 7 days was vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink water, I couldn't sleep. It was just vomiting all day, every day for about 7 days. And on the 8th day, I came good. But yeah, have a bucket prepared if you're addicted to opioids. Have a bucket prepared because you will be vomiting a lot. I'd have something small to eat, maybe half a cup of coffee, vomit it straight back up. I'd have some paracetamol and that much water and vomit it straight back up. And then I'd have nothing but diarrhea for the rest of the day and stomach cramps because I'd been on Oxycodone for 7 to 8 years and I needed a clean out basically. But coming off Oxycodone was horrendous. So once I'd stopped tapering, so the first 2 days I was kind of okay. In keeping in mind 2 months prior to this, I'd gone off all of this medication. So I was on no medication at all at this point, and I'd again taken away the only thing that was keeping me happy, the only drug that was keeping me alive. So it has a lot of names: Oxycodone, Oxycontin, codeine, hydrocodone, hydromorphone. It's all heroin. It all comes from the opioid poppy. Different names, same shit. It's all heroin. Don't kid yourself. So as I said, I want to wrap this video up by not hating on opioids. They are a fantastic drug for short-term pain relief. And I want to repeat that, short-term pain relief. They should be prescribed by one physician. If you go and see another doctor and get more for any reason at all, you're kidding yourself. You're cheating yourself. So one prescriber, and just watch how much you're taking. It's a very slippery slope. I want to wrap the video up with a different angle. Now that I'm on day 50 of no opioids, I'm so happy. Honestly, guys, like I wake up so happy every day. I was taking those endone pills like vitamins. Like if I was in a bad mood, I'd take 2 or 3 pills, and I'd be like, in 15 minutes, I'm gonna feel $1 million, and I did. But now I feel that without the drug. So day 50 clean. I'm really happy, guys. You might wonder why I was taking them for migraines, because oxycodone is actually contraindicated to use for migraines because they give you what's called a rebound headache 24 hours later, which is worse than the initial migraine. So I'd have a migraine at night, so I'd have 4 or 5 or 6 pills along with a few beers or some scotch, and the migraine would go away for 24 hours and then it would return as a rebound headache. So that's why if you go to a neurologist or a GP with a headache and say you want endone, they're not going to give it to you because it's a contraindication. It's not made for headaches. It's a terrible drug for headaches, really. It's made for short-term pain relief, post-surgery, by one physician, and ideally go to one pharmacy, because I got knocked back by a lot of pharmacies because I was doing what's called doctor shopping and going to different doctors, different pharmacies, and that safe script that I mentioned actually caught me out, and they stopped giving it to me, which is when I found that old GP, which gave me, as I had carte blanche. Like I said I need more. I was on 5 milligrams a day, 10 tablets a day. So he goes, all right, we'll increase it to 10 milligram tablets, 10 tablets. So let's double the dose and see if that works. And so then I was on that, an average of 10 tablets a day, maybe more, give or take 5, for about 7.5, 8 years. So day 50 to today, clean. You'll notice I've produced a lot more content in the last 50 days, and the channel's gone bananas because I can think so clearly these days. I'm not reliant on taking pills, or I was forever making appointments to see doctors or waiting at pharmacies. It's all over. I'm so happy. So I want to wrap it up with what Jordan Peterson said specifically to stop my 7.5 year opioid addiction that was certain to kill me. I was reading his book, or I think it was an early lecture of his, and he said something along the lines of, "I've never seen a client of mine get away with anything ever at any point." So I've thought about that for a long time. I thought about that until all was blue. I thought about that for days, weeks, and it occurred to me that I was only taking the endone on the premise that I was getting away with it. So Jordan Peterson, within 5 or 6 words, just exploded a myth that I held on to for nearly 8 years and absolutely saved my life. So thank you, Jordan. Thanks, guys. See you next time.